Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I'm drawing Ladybug and Cat Noir on night duty using the new perspective tool in Paint Tool Sci for the first time. I am definitely a rookie at perspective and buildings and backgrounds in general. So this was definitely a challenge for me, and there were so many times that I nearly tore my hair out trying to wrap my head around this. I didn't actually record me setting up the perspective tool, which I use the 2-point perspective ruler from Paint Tool Sci 2. I don't even know, it would have taken me like a solid 20 minutes just to set up the ruler the way that I wanted it, with the horizon in the right spot, to be able to draw the buildings the way I wanted. Couldn't even imagine what it would be like to get 3-point perspective all lined up where I wanted it. So it was just exhausting. I don't even know how I did it, so replicating it may be near impossible next time. But anyway, once it was set up, it stayed there. It was so awesome, so handy to turn on and off. By the way, if you're not a huge fan of voiceover, you're welcome to put on your own music, or I'm only going to be talking for a short portion of this video because it is so long. This took me ages, and this is even sped up so much. So I'll only be talking for a short time, so I'll just go through kind of the process first. So once I had the ruler, or the perspective tool ruler set up, I went in and kind of sketched out a general idea, just a base of kind of where the buildings would be, where I wanted Ladybug and Cat Noir to be laid out. Once I had that, I went in and kind of sketched just the general box shapes of some buildings, because I had the grid. Then I put some box shapes down, and then I went through and very slowly, one by one, set the buildings up. This was the most tedious part of all. I originally wasn't going to do line art, but line art's definitely something that I'm more comfortable with, and I didn't want to push my boundaries too much and try and do a lineless background in perspective. I just knew that that was never going to happen, so I did use line art, which I think looked really nice in the end. But I just went through each building. I had a lot of reference photos that I'd looked at from Paris architecture, so I used Google Images and didn't really copy any certain buildings in particular, but kind of took inspiration from them. Some of them were heavily inspired, and it was just kind of like a mishmash of all these references that I'd gotten on my phone. And off to the side, as you can see, just trying to evoke that Parisian architecture, which is surprisingly difficult. There are a lot of angles to the roofs, which is pretty much all you could see in this piece. When you get further back, there were a bit more, as taller buildings came up, could see the side a bit more, but generally it was the roof. And I just remember when I was in Paris, which was years ago, the buildings were either very like long or they were very square, and you can see it in some of the reference photos. And I just want to apologize to anyone who actually lives in Paris or has visited Paris and is like, this looks like nothing like Parisian architecture. I really did try. And I think some of the buildings, especially the ones in the front, turned out really well, considering it was my first time pretty much ever drawing buildings seriously. I've always been so intimidated by them, buildings and cars. Don't know why. I'll have to draw a car at some point soon. But I'm really happy with how it turned out, even though it was so tedious. I didn't actually look at how many hours this took while editing. It was probably 12-ish. So it was a long time, and definitely the majority of that was designing these buildings, doing the line art, turning the ruler on and off to get the angles right, trying to get the scale of the buildings right as they kind of shrunk away into the horizon. But I think in the end, it does look quite good. So once I'd done the buildings, of course, I went and did Ladybug and Cat Noir, and I used varying liner widths. So I think the buildings in the kind of 4 mid-ground, they were about 8 pixels. Ladybug and Cat Noir were about 9 pixels. And then all the way at the back, I believe it got down to either 3 or 4 pixels, because I just wanted to give that vision of it receding in the back. And then you can see when I do the colouring, I change the colour of the liner of the buildings to this kind of deep blue. I really wanted to keep this blue and orange, Ladybug's kind of orange, red, orange, running through. And then as it went further into the distance, it pulled more and more of a light grey blue until it hit that sun kind of on the right-hand side. So it gave that image of depth. As things go away, they get a lot more grey. And then it just kind of tied everything together. So I did have, when I originally did the colours, I had this really purpley sunset because I found these beautiful reference photos of Parisian sunsets which had these beautiful pinks and blues and purples all mixed together. They looked absolutely magical. But when I'd actually put it down, put all the colours of the roofs on, which generally are this kind of dusty blue, and then the buildings themselves were obviously shifted a bit blue because of the sunset, and then the sun itself was this yellow, orange, and it even throws a bit red as it casts itself over the buildings. So the pink and the purple didn't end up fitting in with the colour scheme. I'm trying to restrict my colour scheme. Didn't succeed completely here, but I think the second sunset sky that I do, which is just kind of your standard but still very beautiful blue, and then it turns into that almost grey, and then the brilliant orange right at the strip of the bottom. And then I did some pretty dramatic shading, some pretty dramatic shadows on Ladybug and Cat Noir to tie them in well, because they are quite saturated, especially Ladybug, that red. If you desaturate it, it takes away from what she would actually look like in real life. So I still wanted that red to be rich. I did desaturate it slightly just to fit in with the colour scheme. And then the dramatic blue shadow from the sunset to bring her, to ground her in the piece. So I'll let you guys watch the rest of this. I hope you enjoyed. I certainly had a lot of fun doing this piece, and I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. Hope you guys like it and enjoy the rest of the video. I'll see you next time.